Howdy hackers, and welcome to another episode of FairLight TV. I've done a few see-through of the hidden aspects of a number of demos before, and I would like to do the same with one of my absolute favorite in recent years, 9 by LFT from Fjelldata 2025. I know Martin Piper has done one of those. I would like to do it a bit different, and I still hope you would understand what I'm explaining here. So over to 9 by LFT. In order to dissect any program on the C64, the best way to do that would be running it in Retro Debugger. So Marcin sent me an updated version yesterday, so it has a few changes. Not really much, but this VIC control panel here now has headings that you can actually read. They were really minuscule in the previous versions. And you can basically design your own views. This one is my VIC workspace. I should say that. So I have a number of workspaces. This one is where I'm doing my general debugging. I have a number of screens that I need to have there. So the views I would like to see. But for this, we are using this, the one I named VIC Editor. So I have the running program here. I have the screen. We'll get back to that one because that is sort of the core here. That's the normal screen, the way things look. You can set breakpoints using a very complex machinery behind that, but this is raster line. So you can set basically trigger a breakpoint inside the emulator for the given raster line. The general overview here of the VIC registers, so the graphics registers, the colors, and these are the sprite pointers. And I know this is very difficult to watch on the mobile. I know that the majority of you actually watch this on a computer, so it might be possible for you to see it. But so the lowest here is the address. The pointer of the address where the actual sprite data is, and it's pointing to a set of sprite data, which is this white block down here. So all of them is the content of them is the same for all of them, and it's basically a full square. All right, I have a memory viewer here because I typically want to see portions of the memory viewed as hex, and then I have a general overview of where the screen is and the char set and the bitmap, and then you can control this here. Very, very handy portion that. And then the memory view, that should be also quite obvious what that is, and I hope you know that you can zoom in here. That was one of the features from ICE, I think it's called. I wasn't even aware of this, but if you scroll the scroll wheel of your mouse, you can scroll into basically any point here in the memory and view it as hex. Very convenient. So Retro Debugger is super convenient. So let's go over to actually watching LFT's demo 9. Okay, so let's drop 9 on the main screen here. And while it loads, I should say that I am aware that Martin Piper has done a video on this. He's generally doing great videos, and this one is also a good one from him. But there are a few things I would like to see explained differently. So do watch both of them and compare which aspects you prefer and if you understand all of it. I'm going to go bang on. I'm not going to have a theory on things. I'm going to explain it the way I understand them. There is one of the portions where I cannot say I fully understand it, but I hope my explanation still sort of covers the main part of it. So let's get over to the actual demo now and talk less. Okay, so here, this is the portion I didn't explain very well in the beginning. This is it's showing the screen, and it has a crosshair here, and you can move the crosshair around. So that is showing the screen as it is when the raster pointer is at the point of the crosshair. So if you're changing the screen at one point while it's drawing, you would see the entire screen in the mode it was at the point of the very crosshair. That will be apparent when we watch this, but just keep that in mind. So what we have here is plain simple screen text, the mighty multiplexus and his swirling spirits in. And here you see the red boxes here of the 4 boxes here. They are the 4 sprites here. So the text here, it's not expanded characters or anything. He pokes standard font into the sprite area. And let's see, are they expanded? Yes, they are expanded. So you have X expanded, yes, and Y expanded, yes here. That's what you have there. All right, so let's freeze here for a moment, and I think it's fair to explain a bit. So at the core of this, LFT is sort of challenging the notion of the C64 only having 8 hardware sprites. That's very true, but you can reuse sprites. That is a trick that has been around forever and ever. So there are a number of people who are amazed because he's showing more than 8 sprites. That's really not difficult. If you pass the very first few weeks of your C64 demo coding or game coding for that matter, you know that you can reuse the sprite. So if you've drawn all 8 of them, you can, or once you have shown a sprite on the screen, you can move it and then it can reappear, as long as there is no Y overlap, because then this one will not show. And there are a number of games that doesn't sort of handle that 100% perfectly. I think Commando is one of those, where you have a number of sprites that flicker. So when you have a matrix of all the sprites that the game should show, and it's basically not possible to show them because there will be an overlap, there is no free sprite that you can reuse, then you would have flickering. And I think that's what you see in games such as Commando. But doing multiplexing, where you have one sprite here and one sprite, the same sprite reused later on, that's used numerous times. So what LFT is doing here is showing 9 sprites. He's reusing one sprite, and that is absolutely not a big thing. Yeah, sorry about the sound. I know this sound emulation here in Retro Debugger isn't this sort of strong side, so there will be, it's a bit noisy, but leave that and focus on the visuals here. So here you see that he is sort of swirling sprites, but I think he's changing colors on them, so they appear. So they are swirling all, even if you don't see them initially. This is what you see here. You have the 1 and 2 showing, and but what you see is just the sprites running around. So they are running around already. Right, so if I have my sprite pointer here, my mouse pointer here, and if I'm placing the cursor up here, you see that these are the 8 sprites. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then if I press a bit further, once the 5 here has been shown, that 5 is moved down here. So that sprite that was just over his head is moved to under his feet. That is a simple multiplexer. I mean, that's one of the things that basically any demo coder could do, or any game coder could do for that matter. That's not a big thing. So he opens this by showing the very standard multiplexing of sprites. Easy peasy. Okay, so now we have established the fact that multiplexing is a thing here. So, and LFT is of course able to do that. Okay, and there you saw something change. It was a bit of a flash here. So what we have now is basically a different mode. He's using something where you basically turn the screen off, but you still open the border, which makes it possible to still show sprites, but you cannot show any of the other graphics. And why would you want to do that? Why would you go through the hassle of doing that when the only thing you can show is sprites? The reason is, normally on the screen, every 8th line is a bad line. That means that Vic takes precedence over the bus to the memory, and the CPU just sit there and cannot do anything. If you need to do more on every raster line, this is the trick to do it, because then you have the full 63 cycles on every raster line. So if you're showing graphics and you're having multiple sprites as well on the screen, and you're opening the border, there are not enough cycles to do that on a bad line if you have too many sprites on the screen at the same time, or on the raster line at the same time. So what LFT is using here is basically opening the border, but placing black sprites there, so it still looks like the border is there, and the guy who is seemingly the same, I mean, it is the same guy, it looks like a Petsky character, he's still there, so you're sort of assuming that this Petsky guy is Petsky character sitting on the screen. But no, we're not there yet. This is where things change. Okay, sorry, that was the sort of flashy moment. So you see here now that sprites are starting to appear in the upper and lower border, and that's not really difficult as well. That's also one of the rather easy tricks you can eventually learn. But opening the borders on the side border, that takes a whole different level of complexity, because then you need critical per cycle timing to make that perfect. Let's see if we can go into where we see that. Okay, here. So this is the mode. Here you see that you have sprites in the upper and lower border, and you also have them in the side border. And you have characters here. Do we have enough cycles for that? Yes, we do, because we don't have characters here. This guy is no longer a character guy. It's a replica of him, incarnated in the form of sprites. So let's see here, when we click around in the top screen here, we can see what's what. So you see here that what would that be? The 9? That's weird. Oh yeah, the content is not really relevant there. He didn't update the content of it, so that's why. Here you can see that the magician is now in the form of sprites, because his entire appearance here would be circulated by those red inside the red square, and you can see some portion of him, they are expanded sprites, and some portions are unexpanded sprites. So his LFT is doing a lot of tricks to implement that guy in a very exact manner. But the really weird part here is FA80. We should go FA80. So you see a block of FFs, and that is a sprite. That is, so the sprite content that LFT places on the side, so that it looks like the open border isn't open. So he's sort of faking that the border is still there. So the magical sprites can go outside because the border is open. It should be fine. But then he places blocks that mimic the border, so it looks like the border is still here. Let's do just fill here with 55. That should be like a stripy sort of. Right, and then we just allow it to. Now you see here on the lower part where you have the sort of the real screen that my trashy thing here inside that sprite area. You can also see it here, what it looks like. And on the screen, it looks like this. So the same sprite is then placed here on a repeated way to mimic that this is a border. It's not. It's an open border, and all you see now on the screen, that is sprites. Yeah, he's changing to another Vic bank here down at the very lower part of the screen. So if you're up here, the video base is CC00, so that's where the screen is. But when we get down here on route, I think it's row D6 or D7, we are now pointing at the other Vic bank here. I'm not really sure why that is done, but yeah, it doesn't really matter. Okay. Okay. Now we're back to that vanilla multiplexer again. That's showing something and then getting back. And now the guy raises his hands. And now we're into something which is getting to be more difficult. So you see here, you have 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 1. No, there is no 2. How could that be? So if we watch it up here, you see that the 2 is placed here, and there is no red square outlining it. Why is that? Yes, it is because that one isn't a sprite. That one is characters. Yeah, I don't know why it looks like that, but it's only, oh yeah, it's only pointing to the relevant screen memory here. So up here, you have 8 sprites and you have 1 fake sprite implemented as characters. But it's beautifully done, so it's very difficult to see it. But that's how it is. So the 9 sprites on every line, only 8 of them are actually sprites and 1 is made out of characters. Let's go on here. So he's doing that. Again, one of them is a character. But once you go into the top border, it's impossible for to have a character, because only sprites can go outside of the character area. So he needs to do something else here. You see the 9 sprites, all of them have individual colors and all of them are high resolution. These are 2 restrictions we must keep in mind. If we allowed multicolor to be sort of relevant here, it would be easier, because then we can poke them into a common sprite. So 2 sprites or 2 objects could be poked in the same sprite, and then that would be a way to do it. And we can have the individual colors. So individual colors and also having it in the border is a challenge here. And I can't say I understand all of this, but if you see this, you see that the 6, 5, 4, they sit in the same sprite. So what he's doing here is having 6 sprites that are individual sprites, and then 3 sprites occupying the screen estate of 2 physical hardware sprites. And he needs to have that implemented as multicolor, because otherwise he couldn't have individual colors. So in order to have 3 different sprites in an area of 2 sprites, you only have 2 colors, one for each of the sprites, and since you're going to have 3, it's even more difficult, because then the middle one would be split. So he's using the 4 colors of the sprites by having one of them being the one color, the second one being another color, and then the third one is using the background color. Why using that? Well, he needs the third color, or the fourth color there, to cover the background. So to cover the background. So I think he's opening the background here, and what you see here is the background color. I think that's why he's doing it this way. And then you see sort of black spots here. So he's using the Ghost Bite trick to cover that, using Ghost Bite to make it look like if it's high res. So combining the Ghost Bite with multicolor, throwing 3 of them into 2 physical sprites, that is what is happening here. So that's why he needs to have that sort of circle a bit more narrow. It's brilliantly implemented, and the way it flows between the different sections is sort of the key brilliance here. You think that the trick is one, and then he moves it to another area, and then you realize, no, that couldn't be it. And then he moves it to a third area, and then you realize, no, that couldn't be it either. And basically, if you know all the tricks, you know that there is not one trick that can do all of those things. But because he's using different tricks, even it flows between the different tricks in a way that you have sort of a continuous story where no technical trick explains all of it, but using different tricks in the different segment is the sheer brilliance here. Yeah, excellent work. You should also be able to see here that, that he's also using copying the sprites around here. So he has one set of sprites that sort of sits here on the top and then on the bottom. So I'm not sure why he's doing that. I'm sort of assuming that this is done to ensure that you have the same number of cycles for all the lines without needing to, because if you move the sprites up and down, it will take cycles when it appears, and it will not take cycles where it doesn't appear. But if you move the content inside, then the actual physical hardware sprite takes the amount of cycles where it's shown. But if you move the content, that's not really relevant, because it takes the same number of cycles to read the 0 content as it takes to populate with actual bit content. All right, that's that. Okay, we can move on a bit, and I'm showing you here 7FFF. That is the Ghost Bite. So you can see that it changes a bit here. I don't know if we can see that moving. No. So that one changed, and that is when he's sort of using the Ghost Bite for masking things. And again, I'm not going to explain that. Trident can explain that in a much better way, and if you search the channel, there will be a Trident talk over Ghost Bite. That will be so much more thorough than I could ever do it here. Yeah, it's quite clear when you see that the block of sprites pass the top level here. He's using that copy thing. So these are the sprites that are visible on the screen, and I guess those are the ones that are only on the top. So I guess he's using some sort of technique where where a sprite cannot sort of pass the top of the screen. Then he would have one above and one below. And now we're back to the normal character one. Was it? Yeah, no, sorry. This is the vanilla multiplexer. Here you see that the sprite on top of his head, and then that one is reused down here. Yeah, that was it. It's absolutely beautiful the way he integrates a number of different effects into a coherent effect, changing effect over the course of the narrative here. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. Thank you so much, Linus, for this, and we love the demo. And if you love this one, you should also watch the one that's called 10. Somebody did sort of a spin-off. So you think that would be 10 sprites, but it's not. It's actually 2. Do watch that one as well, because it's a big joke. And having somebody doing an homage on a demo you do, that's the biggest compliment you could ever get. So thank you so much for watching, and do watch more demos, because demos are the coolest thing. Bye-bye.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
FairLight.